Hi everyone, welcome to Ethernal Realms and welcome to the month ahead astrology reading. Make sure you check your sun, moon, and rising signs for a comprehensive view of the month. Additionally, I would recommend watching the tarot reading of the month ahead to get a different perspective. While you will know the astrology in advance through this session, I will also send you a reminder when the astrological events are near. All you have to do is subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as the events occur through my community page. I occasionally post behind the scenes, meditation guidance, quizzes, and polls, which you can check out for yourself. And it goes without saying that you will be notified when new videos are out, such as other zodiac readings and pick a card tarot readings as well. If you prefer to cut down the guesswork about your month ahead, you can always connect with me via Etsy to get a personalized week-by-week month ahead tarot reading paired with the general astrology. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So let's talk the overview of September. Okay, I'm going to divide this into separate storylines. There are a couple of things happening in parallel, and at some points in time, different things are being activated. So just the general themes going on here. Let's talk about the first one. Is that in the month of September, there are going to be lots of changes on the personal level. And that's because we have Mercury and Venus changing direction. Both of them are going to go direct. And whenever that happens, on especially the personal planets of, the Venus, Mercury, even Mars, we experience lots of shifts in our own mindset and how we go about life. Okay, so on a personal level, lots of changes. But apart from that, we also have Jupiter going retrograde on the same day that Venus goes direct. And that's interesting because it's sort of like both of them are moving in parallel, but they're moving in opposite directions. So they kind of see each other, but they can't really meet at this point. So when Jupiter was active, Venus was not, and now Venus is active, so Jupiter is not. And that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see. But apart from that, we also have Saturn in retrograde, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto in retrograde. So everything is retrograde for like the first few days of the month, and then slowly one by one things start going direct. That is Mercury and Venus. So whenever the bigger planets are retrograde, they're retrograde for a longer time compared to Mercury, let's say. So whatever changes occur on that level, we are more susceptible to absorbing because we don't quite understand it, or it's not yet conscious and it's kind of happening in the background, or this is like involuntary changes that we were not initiating but is introduced through the universe. Okay, so it's sort of a time where the universe is speaking louder than we are able to speak. Okay, so there will be less resistance as a result of this. That's the plus side. We are able to accept the guidance and the intuitive nudges much more easily. And because Mercury, Venus are direct, we are able to kind of incorporate that in a personal level. For example, if you feel like your belief system is not doing you any favors, or that the structures you have in your life are not working in your favor, then there is this opportunity to shift those things. But that initial feeling is going to be the universe speaking. That's the trigger that comes from your soul, from your subconscious, whatever. So yes, there will be changes in beliefs, priorities, and mindsets with Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury changing directions. The next story that's happening is that our focus this month is shifting when the sun is moving from Virgo season into Libra season. So when the sun is in Virgo, there's also a lot of earth activities, earth trines, conjunctions, movements, and so on, right? So there's a lot of earthly matters which are going to happen, and it's going to be a dynamic phase because, again, Mercury is in an earth sign in Virgo, and it changes direction, which changes, again, the flow of things. When the sun moves into Libra, we're going to talk more about relationships and communication, what commitment means or partnership means, and how to find equality and balance and all of that. And this is going to be a more rejuvenating phase because Venus is out of shadow by the time, or at least, it is really, really getting out of shadow almost. So it's going to be, whenever a planet comes out of retrograde phase, basically it is essentially rested and rejuvenated. So it's kind of gaining power through the post-shadow phase, and then it's going to fully glow in its eminence, basically, right? So in Libra season, Venus, the ruler of Libra, is going to come into full strength. So this is going to be rewarding, rejuvenating, not only for relationships, but also financial matters. Another theme to talk about is that there are 6 trines this month. All of them are Earth, which is awesome, which means we have physical blessings, material blessings. And we have 1 conjunction, also Earth, which means there is some emphasis days, which we'll talk about when we get into it. We do have 2 squares, and both of them have Venus involved in it. Okay, so the first one is going to be a direct Venus squaring with Jupiter, who's retrograde. And this is going to be an interesting one because, like I mentioned, going parallel but in opposite direction. And there can be this ideology that we adopt around this time that maybe we and our goals are not able to meet, or our value system, our belief system, they are not able to meet. Okay, so if we move with that assumption, it's not going to do us any favors. It can just seem like we're doing a lot of things but we're going nowhere. That's what it can seem like. But that does not have to be that way. Okay, now keep in mind, Venus in this square is going to be in shadow phase, and that is again indicating that Venus is not yet in full power, so it can't really help Jupiter with much, or it can't really do anything. It can't share the experience as such. It's just going about in its own lane. And Jupiter is in retrograde, so it's kind of in that asleep state, so it's not able to exert itself fully around this time either. So with that, if you mix in the square, the illusion or the assumption that we don't have power, or that we still have a lot of other things to be taken care of before we start moving towards our goals, that can be quite strong. But the plus side is, if we remove that assumption, that initial thing, and just go with things with an open mind, an open heart, and just give it a shot, it's not going to be this way. It is actually quite blissful. It can help you recognize what you're really looking for in life and all of that. We'll get into the actual effects more as I talk about your zodiac. Next, the other square is also with Venus direct, but this square, she's out of shadow. Okay, she's going to square with Uranus. And what's interesting is Uranus is going to be retrograde, right? So all this month of August and even July, Venus was squaring with Uranus. In the first phase, she was going into shadow, so she was losing strength. So Uranus was kind of winning this square, let's say. In the second month, in August, Venus was fully in retrograde, so she was not in the mood to contest with Uranus's whims and fancies. Okay, so again, Uranus wins that. This would be the first time where Venus is stronger and Uranus is kind of like, okay, well, I've made whatever I needed to make as a change, and what do you have to say? And what's even more interesting is that Venus also rules Taurus, where Uranus is sitting. So she can really dictate how we're going to take advantage of the changes that have already happened, the breakthroughs we have made, the realizations that have occurred in the months of July and September. Venus is now going to put that into context, put a more pleasant spin to it. Like, it doesn't have to be so drastic. We can, take it one step at a time and make the best of it. So all in all, it seems a little optimistic. And we also have an opposition. That's the only opposition. So one opposition, one conjunction. In opposition, we have Virgo again being involved, but here we're going to learn to balance the emotion side of it. So it's nice that we don't have a completely practical and logical month, which generally happens when we have so much Virgo and Libra presence, but we also have a little bit of emotion mixed in there, so we're able to kind of come back to center. Okay, fourth storyline, let's talk about the moon phases. We have a new moon in Virgo along with Mercury going direct. That's going to be on the 15th. And we also have a full moon in Libra on the 29th. And this is going to be the date that Venus squares with Uranus. So both days we have some important events occurring. So these lunar phases are not going to be boring, to say the least. We'll talk about it a lot more when we get into your zodiac. But in essence, new moons talk about new potentials and new beginnings. Meanwhile, full moons talk about completion of a cycle or pivoting into a new direction. Quite fateful. There can be external help and triggers that kind of show us and point where we should be headed next, basically. Now, the fifth storyline is that eclipse is coming about very soon. So September is sort of a drum roll phase. And at first, we might not feel it too much because we're kind of busy with the whole slumber of all the planets being retro. Then on the 4th, Venus goes direct and so on and so forth. So slowly we start waking up and getting into the mode of realizing the fateful changes that the eclipses are going to bring. Because those fated changes, they are, again, universally directed. And because so many of these outer planets are retrograde, we are, like I mentioned, we don't have that much resistance. We're more accepting of what's coming in. So this is going to be an interesting eclipse season in October, and we're starting to see what it could be about. Okay? All right, let's start with your specific reading. Okay, Pisces, let's talk about all the planets that are changing directions this month, because that's an important thing occurring. We have Jupiter in Taurus going retrograde on the 4th, and we also have Venus in Leo going direct. So both the benefics, both in fixed signs, are changing directions, but they are in opposite directions. So Taurus falls in your 3rd house of communication, your thoughts, your short distance travel, mindset, any documentation, also your colleagues, your local space. Meanwhile, Leo falls in your 6th house of work, routines, lifestyle, as well as your health. So this can talk about your belief systems are shifting and changing regarding your local community. This can also talk about, your mindset shifting in general about life. What is your philosophy? How do you find security, stability, and how can you maybe change certain techniques or tactics in order to maximize your security? Also, if you have any education going on, especially in a higher education, or if you're a teacher, mentor, or a publisher of sorts, this can be about changing tactics. Maybe you shift your learning style or your teaching style in order to help more people or help the people that already exist even better. Now, Leo in that 6th house talks about how can you enjoy your work more or enjoying your life more? How can you add more joy and blessings? Now, Venus has been in the sign of Leo for quite some time now, and this whole month as well, she's going to be in the zodiac. And she also went into shadow phase retrograde, and she's also going to do her post shadow in this sign. So there is a lot of re-evaluation that you are doing, and it has been affecting your 8th house of, psyche, subconscious, shared resources, loans, investments, as well as your 3rd house of communication, colleagues, and travels, as well as mindset. So the more joy that you add in your life and the more passion that you put into your work, you're likely to see some benefits in terms of fulfillment, but also in terms of tangible results. Also, your desires of what you want to be doing next in life as well can become a little bit more clear. Maybe the bigger picture is not yet available, but for the moment, you know what you're wanting to achieve. Now, with Jupiter retrograde, that's where we're going to observe the bigger picture and see does it make practical sense? What we're desiring, does it make sense on a bigger scale? Does it make sense for my 20 years down the line, 10 years down the line, what the stability I want to be achieving. So talking to people who are more experienced in this area is as well going to be quite beneficial for you. The other planet changing direction is Mercury, and it will move direct on the 15th in the sign of Virgo. So the first half of September is still going to be Mercury retrograde, which is a nice time to, revise, revisit, research, connect with older connections and relationships as well, because Virgo falls in your 7th house of partnerships, one-to-one connections, and also romantic commitments. This can talk about clearing up any misunderstandings or revisiting your expectations towards one another. If you are not in a partnership but would like to be, this would be a nice time to see what your mindset is regarding relationships and what your expectations are with relationships moving forward. Now, after Mercury turns direct on the 15th, you are likely to come out stronger and more aware of where you stand, where your partner stands, any misunderstandings or errors that were created during the retrograde phase can be now clarified at this time. You have a new understanding of each other or new understanding of your relationship needs, and you can move forward and implement those things. Now, Mercury is still going to be in Virgo, and it rules Virgo, so anything connected with documentation, research, lifestyle, health, and nutrition, healing, all of these things, you are likely to get some turnaround on the 15th. Now let's talk about the aspects. This month we have a lot of aspects going on between Virgo and Taurus. It's a trine angle, which means it's about harmony, opportunity, blessings, and breakthroughs in ongoing struggles. So Taurus falls in your 3rd house and Virgo falls in your 7th house. We're going to be talking about these guys a lot. Okay, so Mercury trines with Jupiter on the 4th. Both these planets are retrograde, and it is Virgo season. So it's quite earthy around this time. Things that you are likely to be looking at is what is practical, what's sustainable, and what are the small little things that I can do right now, right here, that is going to improve my life for the better, not only for now, but also down the line. Now, with the 3rd house being activated, this can be about how can I associate with my local community, perhaps shopping in the local community instead of online. Shipping things internationally is going to be a good idea because you make some connections here, and can be good for your own business if you have one. Also can talk about developing more of a spiritual practice or having some spiritual conversations with someone else, such as your partner, that is quite eye-opening and makes you think on a different level. Now, this trine is going to happen again on the 25th. Okay, so it's Mercury in Virgo trining with Jupiter in Taurus, but one thing is quite significantly different is that Mercury is no longer in retrograde at this time, and also that the focus we have collectively is going to shift from the Virgo part of our charts to the Libra part of our charts. So the Sun is now going to be in that 8th house of shared resources, loans, investments, and also is the house of intimacy. So with Mercury direct now, you're likely going to see some positive rewards and results that you might have thought about on the 4th, but you have implemented between the 4th and the 25th. So 25th onwards, you're seeing some nice results. This can again be a nice conversation, or you might act on a conversation that you had privately on the 4th by the time you arrive at 25th. This can also talk about having some meetings with your superiors or your colleagues, and you are appreciated for a work well done, or for your skills and the contribution that you have within your local society and in your teams. Any research projects you might be, involved in, this can talk about certain conversations you have that are promising, that give you maybe a grant, or it enhances your salary or your experience in some way. All right, now another trine that Mercury makes is with Uranus, who's also in the sign of Taurus and is retrograde, and this occurs on the 30th. Mercury is, like I mentioned, out of retrograde at this time. So this indicates that you're making a lot of sense about certain events that have already occurred in the past couple months, and you're putting that into context of what can be done right now. So, for example, let's see, there could have been unexpected documentations coming about in July, August, a little bit before as well. And it could have been that you have lots of these ideas or breakthroughs, and you realize that, yes, maybe I should talk to that person or connect with that community. That would be beneficial. But for some or the other reason, you were not able to go around to it and make it happen. So by the 30th, you're able to do so and establish certain systems for yourself so that you can keep on connecting or reconnecting with certain people who are going to be beneficial for you for the long haul. This can also talk about certain opportunities that were present in the past that you were not able to take advantage of in terms of finances or career as well. But at this point on, you are able to take advantage of this situation. Now, both of these planets talk about the mind. Uranus connects with the higher mind. Mercury connects with the logical or the rational mind. So we need both of them to work together so that we can realize our ideals and our big picture thoughts and aspirations into reality. All right, now moving on from the Mercury trines, we go into the Sun trines. The Sun trines with Jupiter on the 8th and it trines with Uranus on the 16th. Both Jupiter and Uranus are in Taurus and retrograde, and the Sun is in Virgo in both of these cases. So this indicates that wherever the Sun goes, we get clarity. Opportunities and blessings of the past, or certain maybe applications that you've made in the past, that is going to have some turnaround. Perhaps the project is starting now, or you are having some follow-up meetings or conversations about it with others. This can also talk about experiencing resolution, fulfillment, and breakthroughs connected with your mindset. Maybe there has been some ongoing problems that you are not yet able to figure out the best solution, but on the 8th and 16th, you're likely to experience some type of breakthrough that helps you get out of a rut, and also kind of, puts in new systems in place that is going to improve your quality of life. Another trine that the Sun makes is with Pluto, who's now targeting, Capricorn. So instead of talking about the Virgo and Taurus part of your chart, now we're going to talk about Virgo and Capricorn. Now, Capricorn falls in your 11th house of your large-scale network, your hopes, dreams, and aspirations, your ideals, as well as in the future, what do you see for yourself? It can talk about your friends and acquaintances as well. So this being in a harmonious angle with that 7th house indicates that you're talking with someone in your acquaintance circle or your friendship circle one-on-one, and this conversation can bring into light certain opportunities that were existing before but have not been realized yet. Now, Pluto rules transformation, so and this can be transforming a relationship in your acquaintance circle from an acquaintance to a friendship, or it can be vice versa, depending on what you're needing at this time. Also talks about how to acquire authority and power in your social circle, if that's something you're dealing with as well. Or where have you felt disempowered, and where is it that other people put you down in some way? You are empowering yourself here, or at least you have the clarity to move forward in a direction that suits you at this point in time. Now let's talk about the conjunction between the Sun and Mercury. Mercury is retrograde at this time. All of this is in the sign of Virgo, and this is occurring on the 6th. Wherever the Sun goes, clarity goes. So when it touches Mercury retrograde, it brings in clarity to an otherwise foggy mind. So if you were having trouble connecting with people, finding the right resources, or connecting with the right people, right? Let's say you're calling a handyman and you just don't seem to get a hold of them. Okay, you're texting someone but they don't seem to be replying, or things like that. On the 6th and onwards, you are going to experience more clarity with this regard. You might get the solution you need, or the idea just comes to you, or it can be a breakthrough in certain misunderstandings with your partner as well. So there is more peace and joy moving forward, or at least you can have a conversation moving from this point. We also have an opposition between the Sun and Neptune. The Sun is in Virgo in that 7th house, and Neptune is in your sign of Pisces and is retrograde at this time. So this opposition is going to be about, how do you find that right balance between what you do for others and what you do for yourself? And there is a tendency to overdo one side of the equation. Neptune is generally a little bit foggy, whether or not it is direct or retrograde, and there is a tendency to be either overly practical and realistic about things, or overly intuitive and imaginative about things. There can be certain decisions that you're making as a couple or within your partnership and relationship sector that needs both of these resources. There can be, for example, multiple opportunities that come towards you, multiple partners that are interested in you, and you have to make the choice of who do you want to, move forward with. So this can be a little bit confusing in general. But that's why it is ultra important to look at the practicality of things, or rather the sustainability of things, as well as your intuition. Next, let's talk about the Venus squares. So Venus is squaring with Jupiter on the 17th, and of course Jupiter is in Taurus and is retrograde, and Venus is in Leo. She's not yet out of shadow phase, but she is out of retrograde, so that's nice. And both of them are benefics, both of them are in fixed signs, and both are kind of in opposite directions type of moving. So there can be this initial assumption that we have that what we are desiring or wanting to create in our lives is not physically possible, or that it's not practical. We find it inspiring and passionate, but maybe it's not realistic enough. Okay, so this assumption is what can kind of hold us back from experiencing the benefits of this particular aspect. And what do we really need to do here is look at your vicinity, your environment, and look at the connections you already have right now and see what you can do out of those resources instead of waiting for big, huge things to occur from the external world to come in and shock you with this amazing news and all of that. This square is forcing us into action of creating the beauty and harmony that we seek from the outside, from the inside out, because it's absolutely possible with the resources that we have available. Even if we feel as though certain things are not there yet as per our ideal wishes, that's okay. It's important to start, and then the resources are going to meet you halfway as we progress throughout the month and even beyond. The other square. Oh yes, before I proceed, there is one other thing to mention is that the sun is in Virgo at this time, right? And Virgo and Taurus exist in a harmony. So the third and the seventh house that we were talking about, that brings kind of nice conversations, so certain awareness. You can even receive certain ideas and brainstorm with a partner to kind of understand what resources are actually available to you. Now, Virgo does not have any special influence on Leo. It's neither bad nor good. It's a pretty neutral situation, and that's quite nice, to be honest. Venus is not being challenged, and that's nice. So there is going to be more help towards that belief system and transforming that belief system, or turning it on its head and looking inward rather than outward, and that's going to help us progress moving forward. Now, the other square that Venus makes is with Uranus, who's also in Taurus and is retrograde, and this occurs on the 29th, and Venus is fully out of shadow actually on this day. So she's feeling strong, she's feeling fierce and confident, independent as well in the sign of Leo. So there can be this real awakening that happens on this day, which is like, I can't keep living like this, or I can't keep doing this, and I have to stand up for myself, or I have to create my own wishes and desires into reality. I can't wait for everyone else to be on the same page, okay? Now, Venus square with Uranus in general is quite independent and fierce like this, has a rebellious streak, but ultimately it still wants to create a sense of harmony and joy in its environment. But it can feel to the outside a little bit selfish, but you being such a selfless sign and being so sacrificing, I doubt that people are going to doubt your intentions. So, but yes, just for yourself, just be watchful that you're not being overly impulsive or overly compensating for previous difficulties. But apart from that, it can be quite liberating. What's quite interesting about this one is that Venus has been squaring with Uranus for quite some time, all throughout July and even into August, and that could have felt a little bit overwhelming because there were so many changes happening all around us in some way or the other. In your case, it could be your local environment, maybe your neighborhood changed, or the language that is spoken locally is changing, or your colleagues and teams have changed, and so on. And Venus was not in a strong enough position to take advantage of it or transmute those changes into something that would feel pleasant or bring in immediate rewards. So there could have been certain financial losses or certain distance between you and your partner and so on that could have been a little bit unpleasant. But now on the 29th, she's fully in a strong position. The sun is in Libra, so and Venus rules Libra, so she is very happy at this point in time. So she's able to take advantage of any changes that have occurred in the past and put ourselves in a strong position. Some minor things to mention is that the sun moves into Libra on the 23rd. That is the autumnal equinox, and moving forward, we're going to be more in the wisdom phase as a collective. Also surrendering, transforming, accepting, purging, cleansing. All of these things are going to be likely in this zodiacal part of the year. Another thing to note is that all throughout September is a drum roll for eclipse season that is going to start in October. Actually, we have 2 eclipses in October, so observe what are the background trends that are happening in your life. Where do you need some fate to intervene? Where are you feeling most stuck? Because those are the spaces that you're likely going to experience some pivotal changes. Now let's talk about the moon. We have a new moon on the 15th in the sign of Virgo. It is trining with Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus is retrograde at this time. And it's also the same day that Mercury in Virgo goes direct. So there's a lot of earthiness going on here. New potential on a very realistic level is possible. This can talk about a new relationship that you encounter as well. Perhaps it is not known as a commitment right away, but you will observe that as you connect with this person and as you continue the connection, you are going to lead it to a best friend type of situation, or it's going to be somewhat romantic, depending on what you're looking for and what type of connection this is going to be. Also, this can talk about any miscommunications clearing up, like I mentioned earlier, and that sets the space or the canvas for a new type of relationship dynamic to form. This can also talk about some, contracts coming in or work-related matters and meetings, conversations that you have that is going to lead to new potentials. Now we have a full moon in the sign of Aries, which falls in your second house of income, your priorities, values, your self-worth as well. This is occurring on the 29th and is in parallel to that Venus square with Uranus that we talked about recently. And the sun is going to be in Libra in your 8th house, and the moon is in that second house, right? So this again is a very impulsive but also fiercely initiative-taking, brave, courageous, and independent type of full moon. And full moons in general, they bring up emotions from underneath and they make it very, very obvious. So if there is some suppressed anger, for example, that's not going to work anymore, you might be, inclined to move on from something that has been, inhibiting you from feeling your independence fully. So that's what I have for you. Thank you for being here. I really hope you enjoyed and that the messages help you out throughout the month. Stay tuned for the tarot reading as well. I will be uploading them soon. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified whenever that's up. And if you enjoyed the reading, please do like and comment your thoughts if you have any. It will be really lovely to hear back from you, and it really helps the channel grow as well. I will see you some other time. Until then, take care. Bye.